Let's go live now to Logan in Brisbane. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, holding a news conference.
That small businesses looked after on the way through. This is my government's priority, looking after the cost of living whilst also delivering on housing supply in partnership with state and territory governments. And it stands in stark contrast to our opponents, but David Crisafulli, who doesn't seem to have too many policies, I've got to say, at the Queensland election, and certainly no costed ones. And the federal opposition, that today Michael Sukkar was out there once again just being opposed to our investment in new housing. They said they'll get rid of the Housing Australia Future Fund. They've said they're against the targets that we've set in partnership with state and territory governments, with those financial incentives for better planning for state and territory governments to make sure that we increase the supply. This project here as well is about our support for infrastructure in order so that homes can be built. It's one of the missing pieces in the puzzle of housing supply that we are addressing, making sure that energy, sewerage, water can all be connected so that new homes can be built, something that we are providing that was never provided under the former government that didn't for a while even bother to have a housing minister. I'll turn to Clare and then we're happy to take questions.
Thank you, PM, and Treasurer, can I thank you for welcoming us to your beautiful electorate. We all know a bit about Jim Chalmers, and one way to get the guy talking is to ask him about his community here in Rankin, and you won't hear the end of it. He is a huge advocate for this local area. He's very proud of where he comes from, and it's fantastic to be here. This is a really big and important announcement for South East Queensland, where the Albanese government and the Miles Labor government here are announcing 1,100 new homes for Queenslanders. 500 will be constructed on this site here in Meadowbrook, and 600 others will be scattered around some of the nearby suburbs. This is a reflection of what gets done when state and federal governments identify something that matters hugely to our constituents, and that's housing, and then works together to make a difference to that problem. We are, without question, one of the boldest and most ambitious Commonwealth governments on housing that we have seen for a generation in this country. We came from a standing start. The Prime Minister here mentioned that for most of the time the Coalition were in power, they didn't even have a housing minister. That's how tapped out they were on this critical problem. Well, we have changed all that. Our country, led as it is by a Prime Minister whose access to housing in his childhood totally transformed the rest of his life. So what are we doing? We're building more homes, an ambitious target to build 1.2 million homes around the country over the coming 5 years. We're helping renters through the work we're doing with National Cabinet and lifts to the Commonwealth Rent Assistance Payment, and we're making sure that more Australians can own their own homes. We've helped 120,000 citizens get into home ownership in the time we've been in government, and we would be able to do more if other parties in the parliament would come together and work with us. Now, we've got boldness and we've got ambition, but what do I see when I look at other parties in the parliament? Well, I see the Greens, who say some of the right things about housing, but when it comes time to make real progress for real people, instead of helping childcare workers and aged care workers get into housing, they instead try to play politics and stand in their path. And then I see the Liberals, who have not a shred of credibility when it comes to housing. We heard this morning the Shadow Housing Minister, Michael Sukkar, make extraordinary admissions in a radio interview, where firstly he said that the government is being too ambitious about housing. He says that if the Liberals are elected federally, they will scrap having a housing target altogether. Well, it's that kind of low ambition that got us to where we are right now, and that is in a housing crisis where this is affecting the lives of millions of people in our country, and the Liberals want us to lower our ambitions. The second thing he told us is that they want to make more cuts to states and territories in the funding that we're giving them to make housing possible. Well, this is where we are right here, 1,100 new homes that's made through that partnership that we've worked through with National Cabinet. And we know with the Liberals we'll get what we always get, that is cuts, cuts, cuts that hurt real people.